What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 194 of the Stand Up Guys podcast. I'm your host, the incomparable Zach Jones, and today I will be giving an in-depth review and breakdown of Deadpool and Wolverine. I did want to get this review out sooner than now, but not as timely, but it will be a nice, in-depth review, and not as surface level as a lot of reviews that you get online. But before I get into details and spoilers, as always, I want to start with my non-spoiler impressions of the movie. Okay, so guys, what did I think of Deadpool and Wolverine? Well, I'll say this: I liked it. I had a lot of fun with Deadpool and Wolverine, but I can't go as far to say as I loved the movie because I think it has its issues. I think one of the big things for me is I remember an interview with the director, Sean Levy, several months ago. I believe he was quoted as saying, like, you don't have to be familiar with, like, the Fox movies or, like, to understand and enjoy this movie. And now that I've seen the movie, I kind of don't agree with that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure like somebody who has not been following, the MCU or any superhero movies could watch this and they would enjoy some of the action and some of the jokes that they could actually get that aren't just like, but that's the thing is like, this movie is so referential, not only to the Fox movies and MCU stuff, but the television shows and even like entertainment news that the average, that quite frankly, a lot of people that even watch a lot of these movies, probably don't understand. There's one I would talk about, but it would be too spoilery. But and just a lot of the meta stuff, talking about Fox and Disney. Like, there's a lot of people that are not necessarily going to get a lot of those references. So I don't really agree with his take that you don't have to be familiar with that stuff. I kind of think you do to even understand like a large amount of this movie. Like I said, I get that there's things people can enjoy regardless, but I think this movie references those things so much that you really do need to have at least some sort of basis and understanding of them. The other problem I have is this is yet another MCU installment where I kind of feel like, Charlie Brown going to kick the football and Lucy pulls it away because like every one of these movies, I expect more to happen. Like I remember like when, Multiverse of Madness, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to maybe see a bunch of different universes and maybe see how some of these characters we haven't been introduced and like fit in, like maybe the X-Men, maybe the Fantastic Four. And of course, that movie barely dips its toe in the whole multiverse idea, even though it's called Multiverse of Madness. And I feel like it's happened a couple of times in MCU movies. Now, maybe we're putting unfair expectations on some of these movies as far as what they're going to do, but going into this movie, I was like, certainly, we're going to see Deadpool, get into the MCU proper, and like we're going to see how that happens. And I mean, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but that doesn't really happen in this movie. And you also think because Deadpool has kind of a mutant connection, like maybe they'll set up some aspect of the X-Men in this movie. Again, I guess this is kind of a spoiler by omission, but that doesn't really happen in this movie. Like as far, and don't get me wrong, like primarily each one of these movies should concentrate primarily on telling a full and satisfying story within themselves. But since it is a shared universe, you always hope that it contributes somewhat to this overall story they're telling. And I think in that aspect, Deadpool and Wolverine fails. I don't think it really does anything to really contribute to the overall continuing story of the MCU. And as far as like this movie being satisfying, like there's there's a lot of good action moments. There's some legitimately funny moments. Although I will say, like, and everybody's threshold of humor is different. I was amused by a lot of the jokes in this movie. I don't think I even once like LOL'd, but there was definitely people in my screening that did. So, I can't really judge, but several times I was amused. Um, I will say, there's a lot of like Wolverine, like the whole thing about Deadpool is he annoys everybody, and I think he is a character that maybe works better in small doses because like the jokes are a mile a minute and they do get maybe a little grating after a while, where you almost start like agreeing with Wolverine, like maybe this guy should shut up a little more. um, I will say too, if I was just judging this movie against the other Deadpool movies, I think it's probably the weakest of the three. I think I enjoyed the other two more. And also, not for nothing, but I think there are some plot holes in this movie. In fact, I hope people stick around at least because it happens kind of early on in the movie. I'll mention when I get into spoilers some of these, and maybe you guys can comment below and tell me, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're not plot holes. But I think there are a few things you kind of got to just like not think too much about, which I never like because I'm always that guy that wants it to like piece together a little better than a lot of these things quite often do. Um, as far as the performances, though, Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Like, I think he works well. I don't think there's a lot of other people that would do as good a job. And to be honest, like I've never been outside of like Deadpool. I've never been the biggest Ryan Reynolds like fan. Like he seems like a really nice guy by all accounts he is, but like most of the things he acts and I'm like he kind of just seems like the same guy. And I think in Deadpool that's true to an extent. It's just that his personality like works really well for the Deadpool character, so it just kind of uh, works there. Hugh Jackman's great as always. Another thing that I'm kind of disappointed by, and I guess I shouldn't be. I guess because let's be honest, whenever they recast whoever's going to play Wolverine in the future, like it will get a press release, like we'll hear about it. But it would have been kind of cool if they could have like snuck in, like here's the new guy playing Wolverine. I guess that's asking for a bit too much. But like I said, you hope a movie like this will advance the overall MCU in some way. And it again, I would argue that it doesn't, but still, I don't want to sound like I'm too down on the movie because I did have fun with it. Um, usually in this section, I ask, what I recommend skipping this movie, wait for streaming, or see it in a theater. And I would totally recommend seeing it in a theater, which I don't think I have to recommend anybody because this movie is doing very well financially. I think everybody did go and see it. But yeah, just the action and the humor is enough for me to say. In fact, if I were to now grade this movie, scale of 1 to 10, I think I would give it something like a 6.7. Like it's solid. It is solid. Um, but I think it wears a little bit thin. Um, and again, I'll get to it. But I think there's some plot holes or just things you really gotta just like turn your brain off and accept. But there's still a lot of fun to be had. Okay, with that out of the way, I think, guys, I think it's time to get into some spoilers. And again, I hope you follow along at least for a while, because I would like to have some people chime in the comments when I bring up these plot holes, and just let me know. Am I wrong? Maybe I'm just not thinking about it properly, or maybe I forgot something. So we open up Deadpool right away, breaking the fourth wall, talking about the Disney and Fox situation. By the way, like, I knew it was inevitable that he would be referencing the Disney and Fox stuff in this movie, but it is constant. I think it, in my opinion, too much of that stuff. Like, I expected some of it, but it's constantly brought up. And again, like, I know people like me and hardcore like MCU fans, we know this stuff, but I think you gotta keep the casual audience in mind at least somewhat. And I think a lot of this stuff is just flying over people's head. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, but he's like, based on the title of this movie, I bet you're wondering how we're going to do this without desecrating the memory of the Logan movie. And he's like, well, we're not. And so he starts digging up Logan's grave, of course, from the end of Logan. Um, and as he's digging, he's like, there's no way, like, Logan can't die and all this stuff. He's sure he's alive. But sure enough, he digs up his Logan skeleton, and much to his dismay. So then we get a scene where he's kind of sitting and talking to Logan's skeleton. But then out of nowhere, these doors open up. Anyone who's watched Loki is familiar with the TVA and how they can open these doors to pretty much anywhere in time and space. This is another thing I didn't mention, but like, about the director saying, "Nah, you don't have to really be familiar with all this stuff. You can just watch this movie." If you haven't watched Loki seasons 1 and 2, you're going to be, I think, pretty lost at points in this movie, because it references those stuff that happens in those pretty hard. Um, which again, I've always thought it was kind of a mistake for these movies to reference the TV shows too much. I think as much as possible, they should almost make it to where, like, it would be totally optional to watch the shows. Like, you could just watch the movies. And I think they're getting to the point where, like, that's not the case. Like, I think you would be pretty lost at points in this movie if you weren't somewhat familiar with Loki. Actually, if anybody watching is in that situation where you didn't watch Loki but you watched this movie, I'm curious to know how this movie played out for you. But yeah, the TVA guys come in, and so they start fighting. Deadpool starts using Logan's pieces of Logan's skeleton to beat these guys, and it all goes to that song and "Bye Bye Bye" by NSYNC, which lots of needle drops in this movie. I maybe could have done without this particular one. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for boy bands like some people do, but it was fine. I probably also could have gone without the Deadpool, doing the dance to this song. But again, fine. It was a slick opening, some fun action, so I didn't mind it too much. At the end of the fight, Deadpool straps on Wolverine's claws, and he pitches to a flashback of how he got there. So we first flash back, and this is okay. First possible plot hole. We first flash back to 2018 in the sacred timeline in the 616 universe, where Wade has a meeting with Happy Hogan. He asks him to join the Avengers, but Happy, basically says he's not cut out for it and turns him down. Okay, so this is my question to you guys. Now, it's been I didn't have time to revisit the other Deadpool movies before I watched this, and I know in Deadpool 2, like, he gets Cable's time travel device, and even at the end of the movie, he does a bunch of time travel shenanigans. But as far as I can remember, I thought that device just was time, not like other dimensional travel. Am I wrong about that? Because like I was just wondering, like, how did he ever get to the 616 timeline? Um, and I guess maybe that's what's one of those things. Like, even if it didn't specify it in Deadpool 2, maybe we're supposed to go, well, cable's device that it probably could do both. I don't know. I just thought it. And the other thing is, it's one thing if that scene was like really good and actually really important to the overall plot of the movie, but I totally don't think it is. So, in my personal opinion, they should have just let that scene hit the cutting room floor. I don't think it added anything, and it just brought up that question. So, I don't think it was necessary. Um, so now, in the present day, we find out that Wade stopped being Deadpool and became a car salesman, and his coworker is Pete from Deadpool 2. And Pete, he's all about like the Deadpool stuff, so he keeps a Deadpool costume in his locker, just in case. Um, so after work, they go to Wade's apartment because it's Wade's birthday, and they're having a birthday party. They have some dialogue here. I forget exactly all what was said. I think Wade's kind of like disappointed. Pete would like him to be Deadpool again. He does not want to be Deadpool again. Outside, Wade notices that a subway worker took his photo, and he thinks it's suspicious, but he doesn't confront the guy at the time. So now we get a montage. Wade parties with his friends from the previous movies. That includes Blind Owl, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Yukio, Colossus, and Vanessa. And I kind of suspected this when I saw the trailer for this film. I'm like, these guys are just going to be like in this scene, aren't they? And that's basically what happened. They're in this scene. They basically bookend the movie. They're in this scene, and then they're at the scene at the very end. But for the most part, they're not in the movie, which I guess is fine. But I do like the Vanessa character, and actually most of the other ones. So I would have liked it if they could have found a way to have those guys in more of the movie, but didn't work out that way. We find out that Vanessa and Wade broke up and that she's dating a new guy. Then Wade answers the door to find a bunch of TVA guys. He jokes that he's going to have, relations with them. I think he has a whole thing about them like running a train on him or something. And but they easily capture him, and they bring not. I think they choke him out, bring him through one of their TVA doorways. He wakes up in the TVA, and we're introduced to Mr. Paradox, played by that British guy from Succession. Paradox explains to him that that he is special and wants to offer him an opportunity. Deadpool puts it together that Paradox is giving him a chance to join the MCU, so he's super excited, and we see several videos of the Avengers, like on television screens that Mr. Paradox puts on, including one like of a possible future where, like, Thor is crying over Deadpool's body. I heard somebody say they like that's basically a scene from Loki 2 where, like, I think he's crying over Loki's body or something. I also heard a rumor that like they had several pitches for this movie, and like one of them would have involved them like heavily like inserting themselves into Thor 2 or like doing something with Deadpool and Thor 2. I don't know. It was something weird. I'm glad they didn't go that direction. But Wade is all excited, and we get this montage of him getting a new Deadpool suit. And one thing I did think was funny is like as he's getting the suit, like the tailor like keeps like slapping him on the ass and like, like I think even like gropes his balls or something. And Deadpool comes out. He's all happy about the suit, but he's like, "That tailor though is a real predator. I got to tell you." So he's all excited, and he mentions bringing his friends along with him. But now, okay, this is, I think, a bit of a plot hole too. So Paradox tells him that his universe is dying, because Logan was this universe's anchor person. Now, a couple things. So, one is it would have been much smarter for Paradox just to not tell him that the Fox universe was going to be destroyed. Like, that would have made the most sense. I mean, he's obviously like a devious guy, so he could have just like not told him, and the whole plot of this movie would have never had to happen. Um, the other thing is this whole anchor person thing. Um, so the whole thing of Loki is like all these universes like imploding and dying. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think they ever introduced the concept of like, oh, every universe has an anchor person, and if that person dies, in Loki, like universes just die. They never, and I guess they necessarily didn't need to. I guess we just assumed that if those universes died, their anchor person died. But I don't know. It seemed weird just to all of a sudden have this whole, anchor person thing. Okay, another thing that I think is a possible plot hole. So they say the reason his universe is dying is because Logan died and he was the anchor person. Now, the movie Logan takes place in the far future. So relative to Deadpool's timeline in the, you know, his contemporary position in the Fox universe, Logan would have died like decades and decades and decades later. So even though I guess so it doesn't really make sense. Talk about Mr. Paradox. It is a paradox because if if Logan dying would kill the universe and wipe out everybody, well, I guess okay, they do try to explain this, I guess, because Paradox mentions here in a bit that um, okay, he mentions it in the past they would have just pruned the universe, but they don't do that anymore. Again, a reference to Loki season 2. He says he's not going to wait for the universe to die naturally. Instead, he will use a time ripper, which will kill it in 72 hours. So I guess they try to maybe explain it there, being like, "Oh, if he didn't use the time ripper, like the universe would still go on for I guess, an indefinite amount of time before it imploded and wiped out Deadpool's friends." But then this opens up another can of worms. It's like Mr. Paradox is, an immortal being. It seems like, right? So what's it really matter to him if this universe just naturally fizzles away? Like, I don't get what hardship it causes him. Like, is he just like, oh, I'm going to be bored watching over this universe for, however many more years until I guess Logan would have naturally. I don't see. It doesn't really make sense unless you're going to be like, Loki had all the timey-wimey stuff. You just say, the TVA, they're kind of outside of time and space. They know time's an ocean. They know everything that is and will be. I don't know. Again, this is one of those things you just got to be like, shut your mind off. Okay. Because I do think it is, ironically enough, a paradox. So, of course, this does not make Deadpool happy that his universe and the people he loves is going to be destroyed. So he steals Paradox's datapad. He breaks his nose, steals his datapad, and he escapes through a TVA doorway. So this transitions us back to the present. Deadpool with the Wolverine claws. So a bunch more TVA guys come in, and Deadpool just brutally kills him. And he just keeps like stabbing him in the ass and like in like a bunch of wiener stabs, a bunch of ass stabs. Brutally kills all these guys. So afterwards, he decides that he can't save, that Logan, the Logan that died in the movie Logan. So his theory is he just needs to find a different Logan to bring to his universe, become the new anchor person, and save his universe. So first, he goes to a bar and he finds a short, hairy version of Hugh Jackman. Uh, Again, this is something that like hardcore fans will get. That there's been people since Hugh Jackman was cast. It was like, oh, he's not enough like comic book Wolverine. He should be the shorter and hairier. And this was just basically a play to be like, no, that would be terrible. Whatever. I was fine with it, but again, like this is not a casual reference for people, casual people that might be watching. So after rejecting that Logan, he cues a montage of him finding other Logans. They include Brown Suit Wolverine. I believe he maybe calls him John Byrne Wolverine. Of course, the first appearance of Wolverine, he fought the Hulk, and he gets in a fight with the Hulk here. We also get Patch Wolverine, who's wearing the white suit and the eye patch at the casino. I believe this is like the Apocalypse version of Wolverine, where he's like missing an arm, his hair is all crazy. We also get like a crucified on an X Wolverine, which I assume is from a comic, but I'm not familiar with. Maybe someone can comment below. I'm not sure what that version of Logan is a reference to. Also, we get Old Man Logan sitting on a porch, and we also get a Henry Cavill Wolverine that he refers to as Calverine. So they all beat up Deadpool. We get this again. Part of the montage is they're all like just beating the daylights out of him. So finally, Deadpool goes to the bar where he finds, the main version of Logan that's going to be in this movie, the one we saw from the trailer. And we get that scene where they meet, which was in one of the trailers. So they almost end up getting in a fight until Logan passes out drunk. And Deadpool brings him back to the TVA. And I thought this was a bit of a silly way to reveal the suit. Is like Deadpool just like notices that he's got the yellow and blue suit on underneath, and he like strips his outer clothes off before he takes him to the TVA. Which I don't know. I thought there was maybe a better way of revealing the suit, but it's fine, I guess. But yeah, he brings him back to the TVA, strips him down to the blue and yellow suit. And he tells Paradox that he can use this Logan to stabilize his universe. But Paradox says it doesn't work that way. Which, by the way, I don't remember 100%, but fast forwarding to the end of this movie, that universe is eventually stabilized. But I don't know if the implication is it's Logan or Deadpool is like an anchor person. I don't know. But he says it doesn't work that way, and he also mentions that this Logan is the worst Logan, and that he ended up like getting a bunch of people killed or killing a bunch of people. So Logan wakes up, he gets all mad too, and he and Deadpool try to attack Paradox, but he hits them with the pruning stick, which sends them to a place called the Void, which was introduced in Loki season 1, where they go to this void, and there's this kind of smoke dragon monster called Goliath that will consume them if they're not careful. So the void is basically just looks like a big desert, and in fact, Deadpool remarks that it looks like Mad Max, and he also makes like some Furiosa and other Mad Max references later on. This seemed to me just kind of like I assume most of this was just like green screen, but It just seemed like it's like, where can we cheaply film this? Oh, a desert, a desert location. Um, they end up getting in a verbal fight. Deadpool says that they need to get back to the TVA and that they can help Logan save his universe as well. Um, so eventually, they get into a physical fight set to Hell's Bells by AC/DC. Um, I guess if we can't get AC/DC in Iron Man movies anymore, it's good to get a little taste of it here. Um, Another in joke is we can see that the 20th Century Fox logo is like half buried in the sand. Again, a reference that a common person watching this might not necessarily get. Or like, I also wonder about like young kids as well, because like, of course, when I was a young kid, I would have been thrilled to watch superhero movies. But like, if I was a kid, I guess technically this is an R-rated movie, so. But I'm sure my parents would have let me watch this movie when I was, pretty young, and there would have been just so many references flying over my head. I would have had enough fun with the jokes and action not to care, but again. Um, so I believe they end up kind of fighting to a standstill until eventually they are interrupted by a hooded figure. Deadpool seems super excited about who he thinks this figure is. And then I believe that figure says something about telling them that they'll have to work together. And then he alerts them to like this coming horde of enemies. So basically, a bunch of blatantly like Mad Max ripoff looking this convoy of like crazy vehicles. In fact, one of them has like a motorcycle chariot, kind of like we saw Chris Hemsworth use in Furiosa. So like very Mad Max inspired. This convoy shows up, and it's comprised of traditional X-Men villains, including Pyro, Sabretooth, and Toad. So then the hooded figure takes off his hood and is revealed to be Chris Evans, who Deadpool believes is Captain America. But then suddenly, Chris catches on fire, and it's revealed to be Johnny Storm instead. I will say, like, this is one of those things where I should have saw it coming. I wasn't like, oh, so shocked when he did it. I was like, oh, okay, it's Johnny Storm. But like, it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I probably should have saw that coming, but I didn't. Deadpool seems shocked, although I wrote with Deadpool's like fourth wall knowledge, like, should he really be all that shocked that it ended up being Johnny Storm instead? I don't know. So Johnny tries to attack Pyro, but Pyro uses his power to basically totally take Johnny's flame away, which I wrote causes him to comically rack his nuts on this sign and seemingly break his neck. Now, that was actually a pretty funny moment, like him racking his nuts on the sign as he fell. But then, like, he hits his neck like really hard, and I'm like, as far as I know, like Johnny Storm isn't like supernaturally strong or anything. So, like, I'm pretty sure he should just be dead right there. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think his only powers are, flying and the flame control. So Wolverine and Sabretooth end up fighting, and basically Wolverine just kind of easily cuts his head off and kills him, so that's done. Then Toad turns on a giant magnet, which attracts Logan's antimantium body and also pins Deadpool between him and the magnet, which this took some luck because he was lucky that Deadpool just happened to be between Wolverine and the magnet when this happened. Although maybe actually, you know what? Maybe it wouldn't have mattered because I just remembered that Deadpool, when he got his new suit, he also got adamantium swords. So okay, I guess they would have both been attracted to the magnet. So when Deadpool wakes up, they are being transported in a cage, and Johnny Storm is next to him. Johnny tells them that people in the void either get eaten by Eliath, again from Loki, or they're enslaved by the woman they are being brought to. So they are taken to a base made out of the dead remains of a version of Giant Man, Ant-Man when he's Giant Man. Which again we saw in the trailer. This is one of those things where I'm like, oh, I kind of wish they didn't have it in the trailer, but that goes for a lot of things. So we are introduced to Cassandra Nova, played by is it Emily Corrin, I believe, or no, Emma. Let me look it up real quick. Emma Corrin, who actually I wasn't familiar with her at all until the FX show last year, A Murder at the End of the World. She was a star of that, and it was pretty good. And I actually thought she was pretty good here. I actually like if her character wasn't killed, like I wouldn't mind necessarily maybe seeing her in this character again. Again, multiverse, so if they wanted to, they totally could. I doubt they'll go that way though. Um, but yeah, it's revealed that she's the twin of Charles Xavier. She was introduced in Grant Morrison's, I believe, New X-Men comic book run of the early 2000s, and I forget exactly I think she like tried to kill Xavier in the womb, but then I'm not exactly sure how they were separated, and I think she mentioned that same origin here. But basically, she grew up and Xavier didn't even know she was alive. Um, just like Xavier, she has very powerful psychic powers. Um, Wade tells her that Johnny Storm said a bunch of like crazy stuff about her, um, like this whole line about like she can lick his cinnamon ring and get to step in or something. And so then she rips off Johnny Storm's skin, and he just dies this horrible death. Logan tries to attack her, but she just like buries him in the dirt and like sends him like a bunch of feet in the dirt away. Um, and then she puts her This is the thing. A lot of times when she reads people's minds in this movie, like she like kind of painfully like sticks her fingers like into their heads. So she does that to Wade and reads his mind. And she sees that Vanessa tried to see. It kind of goes over like the breakup between Wade and Vanessa. She sees that Vanessa tried to see what was bothering Wade, but he couldn't quite be honest with her, which led to her breakup. Their breakup. I think like I forget exactly what their conversation was. She wanted him to I don't know, be honest with himself, find out what he really wanted, this kind of stuff. And like he refused to be Deadpool, and I don't know. It's one of those things that was not explored in great detail. But in the vision, Vanessa ends up calling Wade something like an effing idiot or something, and this makes Wade realize that Vanessa didn't say that. Like this woman's messing with my mind. So that kind of takes him out of the trance. Cassandra tells him he's not the kind of guy that can save the world. And then Deadpool distracts her, which allows Logan to stab her from behind with his claws. But to their surprise, it doesn't hurt her at all. She used her power so that she wasn't actually being punctured by the claws. It just looked like she was, I guess. Or maybe she can like instantly heal herself with her powers. I'm not quite sure. So Cassandra sticks Eliath on them. Before he can eat them, they escape. Now, this is another thing: is this movie has some convenient stuff in it, and this is one of them. So they end up getting on this like rocket platform thing and like taking off before Eliath can eat them. And it's like, what is this thing exactly? Why would it have been there? Um, Maybe it was like one of Ant-Man's accessories. I'm not sure. But it seemed very convenient. So they crash land somewhere. And Logan says he smells food. Down the road, they go to a restaurant. Deadpool eats Spam, while Logan ends up drinking rubbing alcohol because he can't find like any booze to drink. Deadpool tries to get him to tell his tragic backstory, but he refuses. Wade tells the story of him and Vanessa and how they broke up. As they walk away from the restaurant, Wade tells him about his universe's Logan and how he saved X-23 and a bunch of kids. And then suddenly they are met by the world's ugliest dog dressed as Deadpool. Of course, this is Dogpool, I guess. And of course, Wade instantly falls in love with this dog. But then the owner of the dog shows up, and the owner of the dog is a version of Deadpool played by handsome Ryan Reynolds without the he didn't get all burned up and stuff and cancer and everything. At some point, he mentions that there is a Deadpool core, and so they kind of set this up. And he's like, you wouldn't want to get on their bad side or something along those lines. They foreshadow the core. I believe they tell him that they are looking for like the Badlands or the Borderlands or something like that, which I'm totally blanking on how they even know like which way to go or what they're looking for. But this Deadpool points them in the right direction, and he lends them their Honda Odyssey, which is actually a callback to a joke Wade made when he was a car salesman. He was showing this couple and their family a car, and he made a crack about how the Honda Odyssey sucks, or all this stuff. So now they're on a road trip. They're driving, and Deadpool accidentally lets it slip that he doesn't really know if the TVA can help Logan, and that he was making an educated wish. This infuriates Logan, and Logan tells Wade that he's a joke, that he could never be an Avenger, and that he couldn't even keep his or hold on to his stripper girlfriend, that Wade told him about. And I actually thought Hugh Jackman's performance here was actually very good, the way he delivered this line. This, of course, now infuriates Wade, and so they get in a fight in this car, set to the tune of The One That I Want from Grease. I heard a lot of people saying that they thought this was like the most egregious needle drop, that it was too on the nose. I actually kind of dug it. I think I actually enjoyed this more than that opening NSYNC fight. But eventually, again, they end up kind of fighting to a standstill where they're both kind of knocked out in this car. So suddenly a mysterious figure shows up and drives off with their unconscious bodies. Wade wakes up in a bed and sees Logan drinking whiskey. He asks where they are. Logan says he doesn't know, but he likes it here. It's then revealed that the mysterious figure was Jennifer Gardner's Elektra character. I will say I don't think I ever watched the standalone Elektra movie. I didn't like the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, and I'm like, I can't imagine this is good. And then I think it got horrible reviews, so I don't think I ever watched that one. And then we're introduced to her fellow rebels, Wesley Snipes' Blade and Channing Tatum's Gambit. And so I liked this scene fine, and I thought the back and forth between Channing Tatum and Deadpool was fun. But again, so for people who maybe don't know, Channing Tatum, once there was a Gambit movie in development, he was going to play Gambit. I think he's from New Orleans. And that movie fell through, never got made. So this is yet again another reference. This is something even people familiar with the Fox universe of movies might not know. Again, a lot of deep cut references in this movie that I'm just assume a lot of people won't get, and this would be another one to add to that list. We then find out that the last member of the group is X-23. I actually didn't even watch the latest Deadpool trailer, but I heard that she was in it, and I know a lot of people have made this point online, but it would have been a much they totally did. Like people were, this movie is already tracking very well. I think they should have held that as a surprise instead of revealing it in the trailer. But that happens a lot these days. So they tell Wade that fighting Cassandra is suicide, but then decide that if they could get Juggernaut's helmet, because I think Logan or someone mentions Magneto and his helmet, but he's dead in this universe. But they say if they could get Juggernaut's helmet, they could use it to cut off Cassandra's power and stop her. Wade makes a big rah speech and gets everyone on his side until Logan kills the mood by saying that they're all going to die. And I think he's like, "Come on, man, read the room" or something. Again, a funny line. So outside, X-23 joins Logan, who is drinking by a fire. He tells the story of how he went out drinking in his universe, and then while he was out, the humans showed up and killed the X-Men. That's another thing where, like, in Old Man Logan, the comic book, his whole thing is like, I believe Mysterio or someone like confused him into thinking the other X-Men were villains, and he killed them all. And which I think works like really well as like a guilty feeling Logan story. This one here, I almost feel like if his X-Men were weak enough that they all died just because he wasn't there, they maybe weren't long to his universe anyway. Like the idea that like he was a linchpin and like would have saved them all. I mean, I guess if events played out like he says, like he would still feel like very guilty about it. But she tells him about her Logan and says they can't win without his help. As she leaves, he says he's not that guy, and she says he was never that guy until he was, which I think also might have been in a trailer. Then we see Pyro enter the restaurant that they were in earlier. He calls Paradox, and it's revealed that him and Paradox have a working relationship. Apparently, there has been some sort of truce between Paradox and Cassandra Nova, but it seems that maybe Paradox wants to break that truce and do away with Cassandra. So the team drives the Honda Odyssey back to Cassandra's base. They all get... first, Blade uses an RPG to blow up the front gate. They all get ready to fight. And, like, it makes you... Like, I totally... Nobody probably would have thought this, but, like, Logan isn't seen in the car, so it makes you think that, oh, maybe he really did stay behind. But then, no, it's revealed he was just in, like, the hatchback of the Odyssey, and he comes out and he's ready to fight, too. So they all start fighting, and the good guys are overwhelmingly winning. And we get a taste of all of them fighting. Gambit gets a moment. You know, Blade, X-23. They all get a Wolverine. They all get a moment to shine. Eventually, Logan and Deadpool break off, and they confront Cassandra. She easily crumples up like Deadpool and throws him to the side. And then she makes Logan stab himself, and he drops to his knees, and then she goes into his mind. So it's revealed that in his anger, after his X-Men were killed, he basically went berserk, went on a killing spree, and I think he mentions that he killed both bad and good humans. And that made humanity hate mutants even more in his world. Cassandra tries to entice him, saying that she can block out, she kind of blocks out the noise and, basically says she can give him peace, kind of make him forget his past. But then while Cassandra is distracted by Logan, Deadpool gets Juggernaut's helmet from X-23, and he puts it on Cassandra's head, cuts off her power. Wade tells Cassandra that he will kill her if she doesn't send them to the TVA. She says she can't use her powers to send them away unless they take the helmet off. But then she's like, if you do that, I'm just going to kill you. Like, because she's like psychotic, you know. Um, Logan tells Wade to let her go. He tells her that's what Charles would want him to do. And if Charles knew Cassandra existed, he would do anything in his power to help her. As Wade and Logan argue about what to do, Pyro shows up and shoots Cassandra. And since she's cut off from her power, it actually does hurt her. Instead of letting her die, Logan convinces Wade to spare her life. And so, because they do that, she does agree to help them. So, she reveals that she stole a sling ring from a magician that came through the void. And she uses it to create a portal back to Wade's universe. So, they leave, and then Cassandra gets Pyro to confess what he and Paradox have been up to. So Logan and Wade, they're back in Wade's Fox universe, and instantly Paradox shows up to confront them. But then soon after, Cassandra also shows up, and I think she kills Pyro also for betraying her. She knocks Logan and Wade through a storefront and mentions to Paradox that she will be sending some people to keep them busy. Cassandra kills Pyro and then puts her fingers in Paradox's head to see what he's been up to. She says that their truce is over and that she's going to use the Time Shredder to send our Time Ripper, I think maybe it's called, to send all universes to the void, where then she will rule as a god over everybody. So Logan and Wade, they finally get up and exit that store. And this is the storefront we saw in the first trailer. It has a reference to, Rob Liefeld. They get up, and all of a sudden a portal opens up and Dogpool comes through. So, of course, Wade is all excited to see him. But then he's dismayed when, handsome Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, also comes through. But then eventually the whole Deadpool Corps come through the door. This is what Cassandra was referencing. And there's, Lady Deadpool, Kid Deadpool, Baby Deadpool, Western Deadpool. I believe Lady Deadpool is confirmed to be Blake Lively, who's Ryan Reynolds' wife in real life. And I believe I heard that the cowboy one is Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if that's totally confirmed. So Lady Deadpool gets out an Uzi and starts shooting at them, and Wade uses the other Deadpool as a human shield. But then he's shocked to find out that handsome Ryan Reynolds Deadpool is the one Deadpool that does not have regenerative powers. So then he ends up using him as a shield again. And it's kind of a comedy bit where he's pretending like, oh, hang on there, buddy. You're good. You're going to live through this thing. And then finally his whole head just explodes. So then he and Logan get ready to fight. And Logan puts on the cowl, the Wolverine cowl. Now, I would have to watch it again to make sure, but I don't ever remember seeing his cowl just flop down like a hood. Maybe someone in the comments can tell me that maybe paid more attention. But then all of a sudden he had it, and I was like, where was this cowl before? Maybe it was there. I don't know. I will say, I kind of thought this looked weird because just like Deadpool, they go with the CG white eyes. I kind of think it would have been cooler if they just had actual slits for his actual eyes to show through rather than having the weird white eyes. But it's fine, I guess. So then they have this huge fight to the tune of Madonna's "Like a Prayer," where they go. through the street, and like they fight through this bus. I actually like this sequence quite a bit. Although I will say maybe the song is doing a lot of the heavy lifting because I really do like that Madonna song. But yeah, definitely one of the more enjoyable action beats of the movie, I think. um, so they eventually win that fight, but then the other Deadpools do have regenerative abilities, and they all start to regenerate. So it looks like they're gonna have to fight them all over again. But then all of a sudden, Pete shows up in his Deadpool uniform, and they all stop because they're like, apparently, every Deadpool universe has their own Pete, and they all love and respect Pete. So like, if this Pete says that they're cool, and to not, and spare them, they go along with it. So now we see Cassandra put her arms into the controls of the Time Ripper, and she begins to destroy the universe. Wade and Logan find Paradox and ask him how to stop the Time Ripper. So he says that there's a room below the Time Ripper, and it has both a matter and antimatter chamber. And if one of them makes a bridge between those two, it'll destroy the machine, but in the process, it will atomize whoever does it and kill them. So on the way to the room, Wade tells Logan that he will sacrifice himself. But Logan insists that he be the one, since Wade has friends and he has nobody, since his whole universe is basically destroyed, or everyone he loves. Wade seemingly agrees to this, but then instantly ends up betraying Logan, locking him out the room, so he, makes the sacrifice. So Wade holds on to one set of the cables from the chambers, but he can't quite reach the other one. As this is going on, the character of B-15 from Loki monitors the situation as the percentage on the machine that Cassandra is using almost gets to 100%. It's like their universe is almost destroyed. But of course, at the last moment, Logan does break into that room, and he helps Wade complete the circuit, which destroys the machine, kills Cassandra, and seemingly kills the two of them. So B-15 shows up and questions Paradox, and Paradox tries to claim that he only got involved to stop Cassandra and that his friends died saving the day. But then, much to his dismay, Wade and Logan show up. They're alive, and B-15 arrests Paradox. Wade asks B-15 if she can save Logan's universe. She says no, but she says Logan's past is what made him the man that saved Wade's universe. So outside, Wade and Logan eat shawarma. Again, kind of a reference to the first Avengers movie. All of a sudden, Dogpool shows up again. And Logan tells Deadpool that he would have made a good Avenger. So apparently on that Logan's universe, the Avengers are a thing. So they say goodbye, but then Wade says stop, and he convinces Logan to come live with him and Blind Al. So then, end of the movie, they have a party, and it's revealed that B-15 allowed X-23 and presumably other people in the Void to come to Wade's universe. Wade and Vanessa talk, and it seems like she's taking him back. They hold hands at least. And then we see we see Deadpool and Wolverine's masks on the table, and that's it. We fade to credits. So during the credits, there's first a tribute video to the Fox universe set to "Good Riddance" by Green Day, and I mean, I liked it. This movie, and I guess it's fitting because this movie really, like I said, I was hoping this was going to be like, oh, Deadpool in the MCU. And it's really just one last hurrah for Deadpool in the Fox universe, which overall I think is a little disappointing. But, the Fox movies, definitely a mixed bag, but some good stuff in them. And so I liked that they took the time to kind of give them a send-off. And then finally, end credits stinger. It's revealed that Johnny Storm, Chris Evans, he really did say all the crazy stuff about Cassandra that Deadpool said he did. And so then we get Chris Evans saying the whole line about, she can eat my cinnamon swirl and kick rocks and all that kind of stuff. It was fine, but personally, I wish they would have done something a little more hinting at Deadpool in the MCU proper. Just throw us a bone, something that would have, implied an overall MCU change. But yeah, that's it. I kind of think now, like, how will they use Deadpool going forward? Like, will they make his dream come true and make him an Avenger? I could see them doing that, possibly. Or do you think he's popular? I mean, this movie made tons. Other Deadpool movies were a success. Do you think we'll get more solo Deadpool movies, but set properly in the MCU? Personally, I don't know. I think I personally I don't really want another like movie where Deadpool's the main character. I think I would rather see him join a team, whether it's the Avengers, whether it's an X-Men group, and just have him be the comic relief of that team. And he's definitely like a character that would be good for cameos. He could pop in here and there, make a joke, get out. I think he would work, pretty good for comic relief. And even though I like the character, like I do think full movies dedicated to him. Like now that I've seen 3 movies with him, I'm like, I get his shtick, and I think like now I just want that in more like pint-sized bits rather than full movies. Because again, I think it can get grating over time, and I would argue it got maybe a little grating in this movie at times. So yeah, overall, I still, I recommend the movie. Like I said, I would in the non-spoiler portion, I would probably give this like a 6.7 out of 10. It's enjoyable, but it does have some questionable, plot. I would say plot holes, or at least things you got to use a kind of a flight of fancy to buy. And like I said, it really does nothing as far as moving the MCU as a whole in any direction whatsoever. It really was just a send off to the Fox universe. But then again, they didn't destroy the Fox universe, so technically it does still exist in the multiverse. Maybe after Secret Wars, that'll change. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Deadpool. Please comment below. Let me know what you thought. Also, comment and let me know if you agree with the points I brought up were plot holes, or if you have an explanation, or if I just missed something, or maybe I didn't remember something from Loki season 1 episode 6 or whatever. But anyway, please, if you will, subscribe to us on to the YouTube channel. You can also subscribe in audio form on your podcast catcher of choice. Leave a thumbs up, positive reviews, all that good stuff. And if you like, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. But that'll do it for all of my shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please, please, please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.